Hello and welcome to Creatives Like Us, where I speak with creatives of colour who share journeys and stories and ideas and how they can inspire and open up avenues in creative industries. I'm your host, graphic designer Angela Lyons, and with the help of my guests, I will bring you insightful interviews and compelling stories that can inspire you to think about things differently or shape your next move. Being a creative of colour can bring its challenges, highs and lows and in-betweens. But this podcast is about amplifying our voices and celebrating together. So, are you ready? Let's get started with Creatives Like Us. Hi Festus, thank you so much for joining me. Can you tell people who you are and where you are in the world?
Hi, everyone. My name is Festus Akinbusoye, and I am now in London, and I used to be a police and crime commissioner in Bedfordshire. And really, my background is in business, which I started when I was about 16 years old, and that didn't quite work out as planned. But because I just don't take no for an answer, I started another one when I was about 18, and that didn't quite work out as well. And I learned from the first one and the second one. And then I think the fourth one, I started when I was about 24 with the help of the Printers Trust. And that business grew from about 4 employees to about 60 in 10 years. And I'm just in the process of setting up a tech company as well. So that's kind of my background.
Wow. So you never gave up?
No. I
Never
mean,
gave
all that really happens when something doesn't work out, if you're smart, is that you learn how to do things better next time and how to get things wrong. And unless you get a pleasure out of getting things wrong, hopefully you won't get things wrong next time.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a process of elimination over time. And yeah, that was pretty much it for me.
Yeah. And so it's just like working out, just like if it doesn't go right the first time, you'll learn from that and you'll move on and do it again.
Yeah, and it really is that simple. But I understand how heartbreaking it can be when you really want to do something, it doesn't quite work out. You've invested a lot of your time, a lot of your effort, a lot of resources, and it doesn't quite work out the way you want. And it's so easy to just say, well, everything's against me, or, I'm black and that's why this doesn't work out, or I am a woman, that's why that didn't work out, or I am this and that didn't work out. And I said to people when I go to give talks and things like that, look, there are many, many people just like you who have experienced the same obstacles, the same challenges, and they've done extremely well, regardless, eventually. What's different about them and you? They've got one head, I think. They've got 2 arms, 2 legs. I'm not being ableist or anything, but you know what I mean.
I know what you
Y
mean, yeah.
the reality
Yeah.
is no matter who you are and where you come from, you will always have some kind of a challenge to deal with, either internal or external. There will always be people who have gone through the same thing, who have gone through it, and they've succeeded.
Mhm.
You don't have to be the other way around. You can be successful as well. Just don't give up. Just keep learning, keep trying, and more important, keep asking questions of people who know what they're talking about,
Yeah.
and you'll be good.
I think that's really important actually, because I think people also get quite isolated or just get into themselves and forget that there are other people around them. It's quite even simple. Just even look on Google. If you type in a certain phrase or something that you need help from, seriously, I'm sure you could find someone to help you out there. And even if you just reached out and DM them or contacted them, like you today, I asked you today, would you be a voice on my podcast? And if you
Mm,
don't ask, you don't get. And it's also
absolutely.
about helping people and each other. I think all of us in this community, this world we live in, I mean, the ideal is to help each other.
Yeah, and I think the thing as well is that, you think there are how many billions of us are on this earth,
Yeah.
right? Do you really think that you're so special, so unique and special as we all are, don't get me wrong, that you're the only one
Yeah.
on this entire God's green earth that is experiencing a certain kind of obstacle that nobody else has been through and succeeded? I'm sorry to burst anyone's bubbles. You're not that special, even though you are special,
You are
and
special, but you're not that special.
you're not that special. And so the key thing is try and find out from others who've been through something similar and how they can go through it. And often, we actually have the answers ourselves.
It's true. That's another thing. Because I think also people forget that if you work it out, you talk to yourself, not talk to yourself, but talk to
Yeah,
other
actually
people and
talk
then
to yourself. I do all
talk
the
to
time.
literally talk to yourself. We all talk to ourselves in the shower in our heads. It's
Yeah.
just like, and then we work out the idea. It's when you just like pause. Like, you kind of got the idea
The
inside you, but
thing
sometimes you
is,
might need that instigate.
I think we just get in our ways too much
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, sure.
And usually that's our fear. That's probably born out of past experiences. It might have been handed down to us from our parents because things didn't work out for them in a way we've kind of inherited their own traumas, their own failures, their own rejections because they've shared it with us, or we've seen other people, or we've seen something on TV, or we've heard someone say something or read a book, and we kind of internalize that, and then we own other people's problems, and it's not necessary. I have this thing where history is a place that we learn from. It is not a place that we live in.
That's brilliant. Great.
And so you can learn from the past, but you don't have to live in it. And so what I choose to do is, yes, I learned from my dad's experience, who sadly passed away. Of course, my mom, my friends, others. I said, okay, fine. How can I do better? And how can I be better? And so hopefully someone else can then learn from my experience. But, very important is you've got to be willing to ask for help.
Yeah, sure.
And what's the worst that can happen? They said,
And
I'm
then,
busy. I'll come back to you. But
yeah.
most people who have been successful very rarely turn people down all the time.
Yeah. They'll say, I know I sometimes I get busy and I just think I can't do it right now. I can either guide you to somebody else, or if you just wait for me in a few months' time or whatever, I can help you out then. That might be
Yes.
another option to talk to
That's what
people.
normal. And I mean,
Yeah.
people who are busy, they will not be able to drop their, whatever they're doing now to help you. But if you're patient and you're persistent, and you will get what you want. What I would always say to anyone else is that if someone is offering you help, please don't waste their time.
This is true.
Don't waste their time. Busy people are very busy people, and so and chances are they will have multiple plays that they're juggling at the time all the time.
Yeah.
The farther they're willing to give you, 10, 20 minutes of their time, if you're lucky, an hour of their time. You've got to be there on time, take advantage of the opportunity. One thing I will always say as well is, if you're going to go to someone for help, don't just be a receiver.
Of course.
Always ask them, what can I do for you?
Yeah. Yeah.
They
So
might
true.
say, I don't need listen, I don't need anything from you. I'm quite okay. But the fact that you're asking, what can I do for you,
That's such a good idea.
is a case of, look, I'm not just coming here with an empty plate. I might only have a few grains of rice on my big dish,
But I can offer
but
you these.
I'm willing to share half of my grain of rice with you, because for that person, kind of makes you think, that's very thoughtful of you to think of that. Now, they might ask you to do something for them.
But again, if it's in within your remit, if you can do it, you can help out. But if you can't,
Absolutely.
obviously you tell them the truth and
And
work at
chances are
something.
they won't ask you to do something that you can't do.
Exactly.
Because they've seen your plate,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
right? There's not much
exactly.
in it. But they might but at least
Yeah,
they will recognize
yeah,
that
sure.
you have thought about this reciprocity
Yeah,
principle,
sure,
which is,
sure.
you've given me so much. What can I do for you?
Yeah, sure, yeah. Actually, on that note, I know that you, mentor and you coach too. Do you go around and do that to certain groups of people?
I do that sometimes. So I help out one of my friends at his people referral unit at the school in Wortham Forest to help out there. Some young people there who are in very, very difficult situations. And what can I say? Uh,
Yeah. I know you
it's
can only
a
say so
challenge.
much, but yeah,
We've spoken about this separately, as you know,
yeah,
and so I go to help out there. I go to speak at events. Often I'm doing another one, I think on the 16th or 17th of June. It's a women's conference, so I'll be doing that in London. But yeah, I try to give back and to encourage and support people as much as I can.
yeah. That's great. That's great. I was gonna ask also, when you spoke about speaking, I'd love to know how people should speak up for themselves, and because you seem really confident. It's like, I'm sure you've been doing it for years and years, but how did you get into public speaking and using your voice?
I think the moment you realize that however your voice sounds in your head, in terms of, no, I don't like the way that I sound, what other people hear is often different to what you hear in your head. And for many of us, most people don't like to hear the sound of their own voice on record.
Yeah, it took me
Because
a
they
while
think,
actually to hear this.
because they think that they sound terrible. But the thing is that, because of the way that our systems are connected in our head, the way that we sound to us is not always the same that other people hear. So the reason why I say that is this: don't be so worried about how you sound to yourself, because chances are people don't always interpret it that way. So either don't get too cocky thinking that you sound amazing, or don't get too down on yourself thinking that you sound terrible. You just leave that to others to kind of deal with in their heads. But the other thing is this: you always remember that there will always be something that you say that will resonate with someone somehow. It won't always resonate with everybody. And the trick is trying to think that you can be everything to everyone in an audience. You just can't be. And so when I go to speak, I'm quite cool if only one or two people get something positive out of what I have to say. Now, if more people do, that's awesome, right? So I don't have that pressure on myself to try to be this world changer, all that kind of stuff. If it happens, it happens, but at least I can change one.
One. Yeah.
And that one is cool with me. So have I always been good at public speaking? I don't think that I am.
What now? What? You don't
I,
think you
I,
are now?
I don't because I just feel like I'm just talking.
Well, I know that I heard you speak that evening at the BBC and for black workers, and I just thought you are awesome. You came across really well, and your stature too. It's like
Mhm.
you. Everybody was listening to you. Everyone was. You had everyone focused on you, and it's weird that you say that because I didn't get that at all coming where you spoke. Didn't
I
get
don't
that
think I'm
across.
a bad speaker, but I don't think it's anything special. But what I would say is this, there are a couple of things that I always try to do. I just try to talk with people
Yeah.
at a pace and in a way that they can relate to. I try not to be too technical.
That's a good point.
Even if I'm making a very technical um I'm having a technical I have a very technical topic, right? So that's the one thing. But also I hate to read from a piece of paper. Even if I'm giving a talk for an hour. So I went to speak at a school around Orpington a couple of weeks ago to a couple of year 11s, I think. And I think I spoke for about an hour. I had no notes. There was a Q&A afterwards. I didn't speak for an hour, say by my
Yeah,
speaking
but the
about
Q
30
and A.
minutes, including Q&A. They had loads of questions. And it was amazing. I
That's a
mean,
good sign.
the head teacher was like, we don't get them that involved. The people don't get involved. They get lots of speakers all the time. He's never seen his students that engaged, asking questions and being that focused. For it just doesn't happen. And I have no notes, but you will think that it's all made up. But it's not made up because I prepare myself. In my head, it's something like I create a picture of what I want to talk about and I break it down into chapters, just three,
Yeah.
an opening, a middle, and an end. But there has to be a connection between all three, and there's the law of repetition. So, what I always ask myself is this: Festus, what are the key things that you want your audience to take away with them? That, just imagine them driving home from that event, and what do you want them to think about? And
Mm.
just visualize that and say, now, how do I best convey that?
Yeah.
Because the what then leads to the how. And if you have those two and you can actually sandwich in between that the why, that's where your passion comes from. Because the why gives you the passion, because that makes it very important. The mechanics of the how, that's just your voice and everything else. Do I need visual aids? Do I need a story? Do I need music?
Was it just
All
you
of
and your voice then? That presentation? Was it just you and did you have anything else? Like
I had
visual?
nothing.
No?
I always get asked when I'm going to give a talk, do you need, so do you have a PowerPoint? So I'm like, no,
Right.
no. For me, that's just a distraction. I
Sure.
want people to focus on what I'm saying and me and the tone of my voice, the pace, my hand movement, my, interaction with them. I don't want them to be looking at the screen. Not that I'm obsessed with the way that I look. I'm not, that's not the point, but it's all part of the presentation. You and what you say and the way you use your hands, you are part of the whole spiel.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're part of that audience, and especially if you're making eye contact with them too.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because if you look at some of the best speakers, I mean, obviously, I'm very much involved in politics, and I really rate someone like Barack Obama, Bill
Yeah.
Clinton, Tony Blair, even Boris as well. They are very good at how they use words, how they use language, and how they use humor, and how they connect with an audience. All right, they have different styles of speaking, whereas Barack is a lot more tonal and almost like the preacher from the Southern Baptist Church kind of approach. He's got that. Someone like Bill Clinton is a lot more avuncular. He's very much like your uncle.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
advising you and you kind of listen. Boris is just very humorous and you listen, even though it's kind of doing your head in because there's so much going on at the same time.
So
Involved by throwing in a few Latin words that nobody can understand. That alone keeps you kind of hooked in. And then someone like Tony Blair just seems like a guy that everyone just like.
Yeah.
I just like him. So what I say is just remember that you first of all got to figure out what are the key messages you want to get across to your audience, and then what are the key messages? How am I gonna be able to communicate that message? And in between that is the why. And that's the passion. And the other thing that I'll just mention very quickly is the power of storytelling.
Yes. Everybody loves stories, don't they?
We all grew up with
Yeah.
stories. There's a reason why, we tell children bedtime stories. That is part of our human DNA. Ideally, the story you're telling will be connected to what you're talking about.
Hopefully. Well,
And then
let's
you,
hope so. Yeah.
and then you help your audience to
For
connect
sure.
that story. So I spend a lot of my time, my life, collecting stories in my head, and some could be from life experience. Don't ignore that.
I think some people forget that because it could be just like something even minor to you, but somebody else might see it as something that could change their point of view or tell
Yes.
that story.
Everyone has got a story to tell.
Everyone.
Everyone. If you've lived life and you've not been stuck under a cave for, 10, 15 years
Yeah.
of your life, you will have a story about almost anything: adversity, success, a relationship, finance, courage,
Cool.
people. You will have a story you can tell. The thing is that how do I now package this in a way that I can connect with my story and the audience? That is, so the power of storytelling is something that you must always, always bear in mind. Keep it brief and relevant. And if possible, make sure that it connects.
Thank you so much. I didn't want to interrupt there at all. That was a nice story, shall we say, about about presentations and talking to your audience. And I love the fact that also the children in the audience had lots of Q&As, lots of questions for you, because that is a massive sign of an engaged audience. Can you imagine, like, if you've just done a talk and then the host says, "Any questions?" And sometimes I've been in audience when someone says, "No, no questions." And I'm like, "Okay, maybe they've answered everything." But when you do get questions, it makes you feel like, "Oh my gosh, they actually listened. They've got more thoughts about this,"
Mm.
and get them involved.
Yeah. And so, with storytelling, the more personal it is, or the more real life it is, if it's a real person, especially one that people might have known about, but they never really thought about.
Yeah.
So, for example, if I'm talking about not giving up, I said, well, how many of you guys in this room have ever had KFC? Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, let me tell you about the guy who started KFC. Well, what's that got to do with anything? And then you tell his story about how he failed multiple times and how he did not actually start KFC until he was in his 60s.
So then they can relate.
You're talking now to a group of people who are potential businessmen and women. I can't know what it's like to fail multiple times, but I know what it's like to pick myself back up. And they're probably like in their 30s or their early 20s. And they're thinking, oh, life is woe is me. Everything is terrible. It's not working. I'm like, whoa, chill. You eat KFC like every week. The guy that started KFC, he failed so many times he did not actually make KFC until he was in his 60s.
Yeah.
Don't worry, if you just keep going, things will work out. What do you think they're gonna think about the next time they drive past the KFC?
They're gonna think about the old man. They're gonna think about the old man saying, "How did he have all this? Like, he's got loads of businesses and franchises, and he started, I want that."
So now you've got a hook to something that they can relate to. See, because often when we're speaking in public, we think about ourselves, and it is not about you. It's about what your audience are going to take away with them from that experience. And so you've got to think to yourself, when they're going away from that room, what do I want them to think about? And lastly, what I'll say about public speaking is there is the power in repetition.
Do you mean repeating what you've said over in the presentation again?
So there's a saying that goes something to the effect of, you got to tell people what you've told them, and then remind them that you've told them what you've just told them, and then tell them again what you've just told them, and then tell them that you've been reminding them about what you've just told them, and then tell them again that you've just told them.
I heard that before.
So all through your talk, if you have those key points of what you want to get across, you start. So today, I want to just tell you briefly about why it is absolutely important for you to never give up on your dreams and what you really want to achieve. It might be hard, it might be difficult, it might even seem impossible. So 3, see 3 there? But you don't give up. And then I tell you a story, and I use the words, but you don't give up. And then as you're concluding, you tell them, but you don't give up. So you repeat those key words again and again and again and again. Part of what's going to be ringing in their head are those words,
Oh, that's
but you don't give up. No one's going to remember every single thing you say, but the things that you repeat enough. So if you don't repeat your key points often enough, they're going to be all over the place. They won't have an impact because the human attention span cannot remember everything I'm going to say in this podcast, right? But there will be some key messages around storytelling, trying not to use no's, practicing, repetition, repeat what you've said and remind people that you've just reminded them what you've just told them, and then tell them again, and then remind them that you had reminded them about what you just said, and then tell them again that you've told them what you just told them.
That is so good. That is perfect.
But
That is
how
that
do we
is
learn? How do we
how
learn?
do we learn? At school, we just repeat all the words all the time, don't we? We just learn songs, we repeat the songs. So it's
So
the
if you
art.
think about your
Yeah,
favorite song
yeah.
by any artist,
You've heard it
how
a
did you
thousand times.
didn't hear it just once to remember the whole all the lyrics? You had to repeat and repeat and it is no different. It is no different. So I give you an example. So if you remember the 2019 general election, if you
Yeah.
do,
Just about.
which
Yeah,
Boris
yeah,
won
yeah,
to
yeah.
become
One
prime minister,
Boris, yeah, yeah.
what was his main slogan?
Oh my gosh, you're putting me on the spot now.
Get Brexit done.
Brexit done. Oh yes, yes, yeah.
It went on and on
Did
and
yeah,
on
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
on and
yeah.
on and on about that. Whether you liked it or not, it worked. Tony Blair, education, education, education.
Education. I remember that one. Yeah.
And that was repeated over and over and over and over again. And that was how many that was what, like 20, 30, 20 years ago, in 1997, 20, 30 years ago. It works. Try it.
Yeah. Well, no, I know, no, definitely, yeah. But you've given me some great tips about, speaking though. I love that, and I hope the audience, the listeners also get tips too, and it's just so cool. Again, repetition and don't give up.
There
I
you
love
go.
that.
And
Yeah,
storytelling, it's
storytelling.
and be if you want to be a good public speaker, be a good be a good collector of stories about anything and everything. Be a good collector of stories, and you will find from the stories can come a talk. And I give speeches in my head all the time.
Do you ever not
When I'm
write them down or do
no,
voice notes? Do
never.
you do voice notes? And you just remember them?
Yeah,
Wow.
I visualize myself giving talks in front of 100,000. I mean, I'm never nervous, by the way. I don't really get nervous. So
Right.
I was like,
Because you're so used to it now? Or is it you never been nervous? Or is it quite confident
what purpose does that achieve?
being nervous?
Yeah. Apart from making you much more alert, I will only use nerves as a way of making me feel a bit more grounded and a bit more alert, but never to the point where it is self-destroying. But what I will say to any of your listeners who think that, well, I can never be like that, well, I do get nervous. When I was going on Good Morning Britain last week, Thursday, I only got a call the day before. We're going to talk about a certain topic. Okay, fine. So I prep myself and everything. We got to the studio with Ed Balls, and half an hour before the show, well, by the way, Festus, we're going to have to change the topic because the news item has changed. We're going to talk about something totally different. But that's fine. And it was live.
And it was live.
And it's live as well. I mean, almost all the TV stuff that I do, they're almost always live. Very rarely are they recorded. Very rarely are they recorded or when I'm on radio or whatever. But again, it was fine. I didn't have to write notes. I didn't have to spend, in my head, I'm already working like a math calculation. This. What are your key lines? You've got to remember what are your key lines? What are your key messages? No matter what the topic is, you've got an audience you want to engage with. What is going to be their takeaway? Remember, it's not about you. It's about them. And once you can keep that simple, everything else kind of just works its way.
That is really important actually, because I think that's when the nerves you said you don't get nerves, but you said a little bit, I suppose it is live TV, but it is about them, not you. And that's when you start thinking about you too much, that's when I suppose the nerves kick
Exactly
in.
right. So
Yeah.
when you start thinking about the audience, and it's not, I don't know how many millions of people watch, Good Morning Britain at that time or whatever, but I only have to think about one or two people on the other side of the camera. And I'm saying, well, what would they like to hear about this subject?
Quite interesting. So you just brought it down to those few people in the
Yeah.
audience
I don't think
in
about
front of you.
100,000 people. Even if I'm in front of, I mean, I've spoken in front of a huge audience before. I've done that before, obviously, TV and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. I don't think about everybody who's listening. I just think about one or two people that I'm having a conversation with in my head. And then you can now just say, look, what do I think that person really wants to hear? And how can I tailor my message to that person?
Yeah.
And then before you know it, you get a narrative that then builds itself. So, but yeah, quick story. I said, there you go, story there. Uh, uh, Martin Luther King,
Yes.
how would you describe him as a public speaker?
Authoritative.
What's famous speech that you can think of?
I have a dream.
How do you know it's called I why how do you know it's called I Have a Dream?
Because I've seen posters, I've seen it on TV many times, I've heard him say it.
How many times do you think he repeated the word I have a dream in that speech?
Oh gosh. Oh,
Several times.
several. Yeah.
And that's why it's been late
Yeah.
titled. He didn't title it I Have a Dream, but the public decided it
The
was gonna
public
be called
did.
I Have a Dream.
Yeah, yeah,
But he repeated the words I have a dream multiple times in that speech.
yeah.
And
Poetic also.
absolutely. I have a dream. Now, I remember reading one of his autobiographies, and he spoke about a time when he was about to go and give a speech at a church in the South. And the night before, he wrote about how he felt so sick in his gut because he was so nervous that he got on his knees and he just prayed to God that he had this kind of almost like a nervous breakdown about going to speak. And now, how many people would ever
Think
imagine
that
that someone like
right.
Martin Luther King, one of the greatest orators of the 20th century,
Yeah.
would have that level of nerves?
You would never think that. Especially that crowd, Washington, it's just like you would never think that, would you?
Now,
And
even
all the
though
other
I
places he
exactly
spoke.
right, and that there's some artists who are Grammy award winning, platinum sales performers who also suffer from stage fright,
I
who
heard
have
that.
nerves.
I heard that about, I don't know if she still does, but Beyonce, so she puts on, her alter ego, so she pretends she's somebody else. She
Yeah.
has, a person called Sasha
So
Fierce.
yes, so
Yeah,
it's quite normal for
yeah,
even the best of us to have some nerves. The nerves, it depends how you use it. So for me, I use it to sharpen myself and to not get too casual, complacent about what I'm doing. Because you want to be relaxed, but you don't want to be so relaxed that you lose your discipline about what you do or start saying stupid stuff that gets you in trouble,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
even before I came on air with you, I was a bit nervous.
Really?
Yeah, but nervous as in, but the way my nerves work is to say,
Yeah,
"What, Festus, don't screw around. This is not a joke." Whatever you say
yeah.
goes on
That's
record, and it'll be remembered for as long as that record is remains available. It just helps me kind of just sharpen my attention, but not to the point where I pull out. I don't want to do it anymore.
it's so interesting you say that. I'm really glad you actually brought that up because I always, when I open the Riverside recording studio, I always get a bit nervous. I'm like, "Oh my gosh," and I start breathing, take breaths, and I compose myself and think, "This is fine. This is a conversation." But you do have to have that element of what I know I do, just that nerves to ground me a little bit. It's like what you're saying. It has to
Exactly right.
ground me.
So it is. And the 9 times out of 10,
Yeah.
everything works out fine.
Honestly, it does, and then afterwards, when it's all gone and we're shut down, I'm just like, "That was so good." Or, "My God, I really enjoyed that chat."
If I told you that jumping out of a window 9 times out of 10, you're going to be perfectly fine, would you worry about jumping out of a window?
I suppose you wouldn't, but I think I should.
Because from experience that 9 times out of 10, nothing really happens. So why do we put ourselves in this kind of mental state
Mhm.
of almost what I can only describe as self-torture when most of the
Yeah.
time things work out? And even if you happen to have that 1 out of 10 that didn't quite work out, chances are the next time you won't have a repeat of the bad experience that happened last time because the odds are it mostly always works out fine.
It works out fine, yeah. Oh, you learn from that and you know what to do next. Yeah.
Precisely. But for some of us, that actually holds us back from opportunities. And
Mhm.
this is where, I'm seeing people going for job interviews, for example, or bidding for a contract where you have to do a presentation, or you have to do a pitch for a movie or an artwork or whatever it is. Those nerves can become so destructive that when the time comes, you just become a complete mess. So there are very, very real life consequences that can come if we don't really find a way to tame that monster.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it can be very debilitating and ruin us potentially.
They can, yeah. And that's the thing, as I said, going back to the beginning and saying, you can find something for anything out there. So you can talk to people. You
Mhm.
can find somebody to help you with public speaking, or there's some, listen to podcasts on public speaking, or don't let that hold you back. If that's something that's part of your business or part of your life that you have to do public speaking, find a way around it.
I think from what I understand that public speaking is one of the most feared activity by the public. Most
Mm.
people have a lot of people have phobia of speaking in public. And there are those who pay a lot of money to learn about speaking in public or the psychological part. But often it's because we spend too much time in our own heads. In the grand scheme of things, 90% of what you say, nobody will remember it. They just won't because they've got other things in their lives. The moment they finish listening to this podcast, next thing. Sorry, I'm sure yours is especially unique and they'll listen. Maybe they'll love every part of it. So yours will be an exception.
Thanks.
I'm sure they will do. But most of the time, whatever you say,
True that.
you don't remember. We are bombarded by stuff all the
Yeah.
time. So the fact that you think that everything you say is going to have such a light, get over yourself.
Get over yourself.
Just get out of your head.
Yeah.
The reality is a small percentage of what you say will linger in people's mind. So you get to decide what that is through your stories, through your repetition, and the rest they're going to ignore anyway.
It's true. It's so true. I think that is I think that's a wonderful note to end on, actually, if that's okay with you. I think that is a nice, timely, perfect how shall I put it? The end story to the story.
Yeah.
But actually,
They live
there's
happily
always-
ever after.
live happily ever after. But I don't know if you've listened to my podcast before. I always have a little bit of an appendix where I ask people quick fire 5 questions.
Okay,
And
sure.
you have to do one or the other. So I like to ask, crisp or chocolates?
Oh, chocolates for sure.
Beach or forest?
Beach.
Book or Kindle?
Ooh, book.
Great. Reggae or soul?
Oh,
I knew one would get you.
Oh no! Can I pass? No.
No, you got to have one.
So
Okay, great. The last one is patty or a sandwich?
patty all day.
Great.
The spicier the better as well.
Hey.
Yes.
Nice. Thank you so much, Festus. And if people would like to connect with you or hear more about you or see you, find you online, where can they find you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, Festus Akinbusoye. There's only one.
I love that. There's only one.
There's only one. And obviously I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, the whole lot. So
Lovely.
I'm very easy to find. I can't hide anywhere.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time today. And thank you for joining me.
Absolute pleasure.
All right, take care.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much, Festus. Thank you for listening. Next Thursday, 16th October 2025, is our Creatives Like Us event in London. We still have a few tickets remaining and would love for you to join us. You can find us on Eventbrite when you search for Creatives Like Us under Abbas Marketing. I'll also leave the link in the show notes. Thanks again for listening to this episode. And if you liked it, please leave a star review if you're listening to Spotify, or leave a review wherever you get your podcasts, or forward it to a friend. Thank you so much for listening and keep being creatives like us.